Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi!
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party, noted attorney, commentator, essayist Eric Levine. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg, and I'm honored, delighted, and privileged to have Senator John Sununu of the great state of New Hampshire. Senator Sununu served in the United States House of Representatives, served in the United States Senate, is running again this year for a seat in the United States Senate. Senator, what a delight to have you here. The senator,
great to be with you.
The senator is a graduate of MIT twice, and a bachelor's and master's in engineering.
We couldn't do
it right the first time.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
And has an MBA, has an MBA from Harvard. Has a great experience in both engineering and the business community, and is a common sense, centrist Republican. Senator, it's just a delight to have you here. I'll turn you over to the good auspices of our friend Eric Levine.
Senator, welcome. Senator, welcome. It's great to have you. So you have an upcoming election for Senate, and I'm just curious, why don't you tell the folks what the big issues are up in New Hampshire?
Sure. Well, look, it's an important race to New Hampshire, to be sure. New Hampshire is a Republican state. We have a Republican governor, state Senate, House. But we haven't had a Republican representing the state in Washington in a decade. And a variety of reasons. Haven't had the right candidate at the right time. We've had some tough elections in 2018 and 22, but we need the right voice, the right person, and I believe I not only have the experience and the perspective to do the right thing for New Hampshire, but look, I've done it before. So there's a track record there. People know it. They see it. They feel it. And I'm excited about the race. Here in New Hampshire, look, it's what you hear about elsewhere in the country. There's certainly national security, public safety, security at the borders, but also the economy, right? Jobs in the economy, affordability on energy, keeping energy costs down in the Northeast, always a big topic. Healthcare, right? Congress has really screwed up our healthcare system. There's no doubt about it. We need more competition, more choices, health savings accounts for everyone. So, they're sort of kitchen table issues, to be sure. But if you open the paper or go online any day, you're going to see a lot of talk about national security, and voters want to talk about that as well.
So when you talk about national security, obviously the top issue on that right now is Iran. How do you think that war is going, and what do you think? And what do you think of the president's objectives?
Sure. Well, look, the men and women executing this operation have done an extraordinary job. The technology that's been used, the approach that's been taken, I think has been effective, very effective. And I do think the objectives are clear. One of the things that drives me crazy turning on the mainstream media is that they pretend they don't know what the objectives are. When for months we were negotiating or trying to negotiate three basic things: end to the nuclear program, end to the ballistic missile program, and an end to Iran's support for global terrorism. For 47 years, this is the biggest supporter of global terrorism around the world. So it was absolutely clear months ago what the objectives were if we needed to take military action, and the president was clear that the military action was on the table. So the strikes themselves, we know what they were about. We know what they're trying to accomplish. I think they've made great progress on the dismantling the nuclear infrastructure and operations. Obviously, they've made great progress on the ballistic missile complex, but there's more to be done there. And I think only when we've really taken out their command and control centers and the infrastructure of the terrorist organizations around the Middle East are we really going to be confident about accomplishing the third objective.
So I guess the other big news just before we came on the air is that Homeland Security Secretary Noem has been fired. And the president
reassigned.
Reassigned. She's been fired.
She's been given a new job.
As long as it doesn't involve shooting dogs, I think we'll be okay. And the president has nominated Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma. I think a wonderful choice. But I was just curious as to your thoughts on the Noem tenure, the reasons for her being terminated, and the nomination of the new senator.
Well, ultimately, with cabinet officials, it's about confidence. I think she had really lost the confidence of the president, certainly lost the confidence of a number of members of the Senate as she went through the hearings the last couple of days. But even before that, spending hundreds of millions on advertisements with no clear point or objective. Clearly, she got out ahead of herself on some of the statements she made. In the wakes of the tragic incidents in Minneapolis, she couldn't get along with Tom Homan. I mean, I don't know anyone who can't get along with Tom Homan. Even some of the Democrats got along with Tom Homan. So I think those things really weakened her position. Mark Wayne will be a great leader at DHS. He obviously has the president's confidence. And look, it's an important role, maybe as important right now as it's ever been, given what's happening in Iran and given the importance of using all of our resources and intelligence to keep the homeland safe.
Jesse, questions for the senator?
Senator, thank you for joining us. Number one, your dad was one of my father's great heroes when he first introduced me to politics in 1979, 1980. So it's always good government when we have a Sununu serving. So I appreciate that you're putting yourself out there again and going to flip that seat up for Republicans in New Hampshire. Let's stick with the border for a moment. A lot of attention was always given to the southern border. However, it was President Trump who also identified the northern border, where there was a stream of illegal drugs that were flowing up there. Can you speak to a little bit about that and how that impacted the families of New Hampshire?
Sure. Look, there's definitely a flow across the northern border in terms of drugs and fentanyl. New Hampshire had one of the most significant, fentanyl issues on a per capita basis of any state in the country. It was during a time when my brother was governor, or at least began before he became governor. They made great progress while he was governor, and overdose deaths are really at a recent low at this point. So they've done a good job getting their arms around it. But you point out that border security is absolutely critical. When I talk to people here in New Hampshire, I remind them, and it's a shame they have to be reminded, anyone in the country, but 2 years ago, we had thousands of people coming across the border, thousands a day. We all saw it on video and television, and it was a human tragedy, an absolute human tragedy, a tremendous amount of suffering. And what were we told? What did Joe Biden and the Democrats tell us? They couldn't do anything about it. They were powerless. And it turns out that was just a complete lie. So, I talk to people, I talk to you about this importance of this race in New Hampshire. It's important to the country, though, that we keep the Republican majority in the Senate. This is the best chance to pick up a Republican seat this year. And in doing so, protecting that majority means we protect the gains we made on keeping taxes low in the beautiful bill, and starting to get our arms around spending, on securing the borders, and on beginning to roll back some of the crazy regulations that we felt from the left. All of these things have been achieved. Many, in fact, most of the ones I just mentioned, in legislation, and we need to protect them. And that's the importance of that Republican majority in the Senate.
Well,
I'll give our anchor a little bit of time as you requested.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
He always wants to weigh us down, but there you go.
So, Senator, I think you've hit on something that's so very important, and it has to be stressed. The accomplishments of President Trump in this first part of his second term, not even a year and a half into his second term, is absolutely extraordinary. He's rearticulated the importance of the Monroe Doctrine, has acted upon it. Venezuela, which was a threat to the United States interests, is being dealt with. Cuba soon will be dealt with. This has helped marginalize the axis of evil because of the waterways and impacts on the ability of China to get oil. And we're going to see, as a result of President Trump's actions here in the Middle East, that the waterways will be controlled by our influence and not by the Houthis and the Iranians. That's very, very important because of the dependency of China on oil, which gives us a kind of balance, a leverage against our dependence on them for the natural resources, the minerals. But what people don't understand is if you don't have a United States Senate that's held by the Republicans, everything will stop. The federal judges will not be appointed in a timely way, if at all. Cabinet appointments, sub-cabinet appointments, administration and governmental officials will be slowed down. So what are your thoughts? What do you say to people and say, well, it's just an election in New Hampshire. What's the big deal whether we have a Democrat or Republican? I say if we don't win the Senate again, then the United States' future is at risk because when the Democrats come back, they'll reopen the border. Look what this kid who just got the Democratic nomination in Texas has. He's already said he's for open borders.
Yeah, and that's really the fundamental question. Do you want to go back, right? Do you want to go back to those open borders that we all witnessed and were shocked by? Do you want to go back to 9% per year inflation, 20% over 4 years, the worst inflation since the 70s? Do you want to go back to out-of-control spending that drove that incredible spending? Go back to weakness, go back to paying off. I mean, we paid the Ayatollah off $50 billion under President Obama. That's horrifying.
I believe it was 100. I believe it was 115 billion. 115 billion.
I wouldn't argue with you about the money. I know 1.7 billion of it was shrink-wrapped cash. That I do know,
and not in dollars. And not in dollars, because it was evading the federal law.
It really is a tragedy. So we can't go back. That's the importance of holding the Republican majority in the Senate. Economically, we also have set a great foundation for long-term growth, made the tax code permanent at low rates, got rid of taxes on overtime and tips as well, paring back all of the crazy regulations, gives confidence to businesses to invest capital, to grow, to hire employees. And we've seen productivity growing like never before over the past 2 or 3 quarters. So great economic foundation, but maybe most important, a great national security foundation.
And also, frankly, and people shouldn't forget this, the left wing of the Democratic Party, whether it's Islamists or the socialists or just a crazy cultural leftists, they've been trying to impose their values on American society, which is really a moderate, centrist, common sense group of people. The idea, for example, like this kid who's now the nominee for the U.S. Senate in Texas, he says there's 6 different sexes. I mean, I don't know where he gets this from. And it's a good idea to have boys in women's locker rooms or have boys or men, in sports where they can hurt our daughters and our granddaughters. What are your thoughts about that?
Really a total contradiction of just common sense. I mean, tolerance is, I think, essential. And in New Hampshire, we have the phrase we're proud of: live free or die. Be thoughtful and tolerant of other people. But allowing boys into girls' sports defies common sense. It's unfair. It upsets families. It doesn't create the right opportunities 4 other girls. It's just common sense. And so you're right, the left just wildly overreached with their doctrines, with their theology, and took it a step further and decided they had to impose it on other people. It wasn't enough for others to be tolerant. They had to impose their views on other people, and I think it's hurt them tremendously. It certainly has here in New Hampshire. I mean, in New York, you've got your own challenges with your socialist leadership, but I mean, it hasn't taken him long to fail and to reverse every promise he made, because they were all based on the craziest kind of economics you could possibly imagine, and they can't be done. You can't make everything free. As Margaret Thatcher said, socialism is great until you start running out of other people's money.
Well, that's exactly right. I think your point is very well taken, Senator. Look, you have to, everybody's talking, the buzzword these days, the Democrats use it all the time, is affordability. The problem is nobody is intelligently addressing the fact that when you overtax and you overregulate and you put all these impositions on the private sector, costs are going to go up. And this is going to be problematic for economic growth and opportunity. And they also insist upon destroying fossil fuels. And they say that, wind and solar is going to take care of everything. That's the most ridiculous proposition in the world. We need energy independence to take care of our economy and our people, so they're warm in the winter and they're cooler in the summer. And we need energy independence so that we don't hand us over to geopolitical enemies. Your thoughts?
I mean, I would absolutely agree. And look, affordability is an issue only because we had 20% inflation under the Democrats, and we certainly didn't have 20% wage growth. That puts pressure on everyone. On top of that, they've messed up the healthcare system. Premiums have gone through the roof under Obamacare. They haven't gone down. They've gone up dramatically. You mentioned energy. They're mandating that we buy the most expensive energy you can find, right? Solar and wind power. They're mandating that providers buy this stuff at above market rates and stick customers with the price. So this issue is one of the Democrats making. I mean, I think you talk about production and energy, building new pipelines, new transmission. That's how you deal with energy costs, right? Competition in healthcare, price transparency, health savings accounts. That's how you deal with healthcare costs. So, conservatives have great approaches and solutions for these problems that were created by the left having their way under President Biden.
Eric.
Yeah, so I wish, Senator, I could agree with you when you say that the mayor of New York, Mamdani, has gone back on his word. No, he's pressing forward ahead. He's pressing ahead. Didn't he get rid of the free buses? Well, in the grocery stores. I don't know.
The
grocery stores. He's pushing forward. He's looking for funding from the grocery stores. On the free buses, he's blaming it on the governor that she hasn't funded it yet. But he has pushed forward with raising taxes. He made a speech in which he went up to Albany and told the governor and told the state legislators that if they don't raise taxes on the top 1% or whatever it is, that he's going to raise taxes in New York City on property owners by 9.5%, 10%. And which, of course, is extraordinarily regressive because he doesn't believe in private property. This is all about destroying private property. He thinks ownership is a crime.
Yep.
So,
that is dangerous. That is such dangerous and wrong-headed thinking.
So, I mean, he has a housing czar who does not believe in private ownership. Thinks that all housing should be owned by this and run by the government. I mean, this is a guy that wants to bring Havana, Cuba, and they went the Soviet Union and Caracas to the shores of the Hudson River. So I wish you were right.
My thoughts are with you.
What about your prayers? Your thoughts aren't enough. We need your prayers also.
All right. I'll do my best, Eric. I will.
Well, Senator, what we do need is we need to say to our listeners that Senator John Sununu has to be returned to the United States Senate because it's in the national interest that we have you back in the Senate, Senator. So if people want to support your candidacy, how can they do that?
Thank you, gentlemen. It's sununusenator.com, SUNUNU senator.com. All the information they need about the campaign, the organization, the message is there. I'm excited about the campaign. Look, there are only 3 chances to pick up a Republican seat this year: New Hampshire, Michigan, and maybe Georgia. This one is right at the top of the list. And when we win in New Hampshire, we close the door on Democrats getting any control in the Senate. We solidify that majority for Republicans. And I'm excited about the race and great to be with you today.
Well, thanks again, Senator. We're delighted to have you, and Godspeed, and we look forward to having you back on the show as the campaign unfolds. Thank you very much for being with us.
I also just want to...
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, John. You're terrific. Thank you. Just talking about the Senate, I just learned a few minutes before we came on the show today that Senator Steve Daines from Montana has decided not to run for re-election.
I know. What a terrible loss that is.
It's a great loss for the country. Steve is just a spectacular
one of the best
person and senator.
And one of the leaders in the campaign to make sure that there was a Republican majority in the United States Senate.
Yeah, I think
he ran the campaigns.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's highly likely that Republicans retain the seat. But I'm sure whoever we nominate and elect will be just great. But Steve's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to fill that spot.
Absolutely, just the best of the best. On behalf of Chairman Jesse Garcia, the Republican Party, Eric Levine, and myself, Judge Richard Weinberg, we want to thank you for listening today. We look forward to being with you again next week. As always, God bless you. God bless your families. And in these dangerous, dangerous times, of course, God bless America. Thank you for listening, and be well. Thank you.
This is Greg Kelly. Donate now to Toys for Tots, which works year-round. Go to toysfortots.org. Toys for Tots supports children in need throughout the year with programs like the Toys for Tots Literacy Program. Established in 2008, it has provided over 63 million books to disadvantaged children. The Toys for Tots Literacy Program is committed to providing disadvantaged children with direct access to books and educational resources that enhance their ability to read and communicate effectively. Go to toysfortots.org.